All right, guys, we're back here on Southeastern 16, presented by FanDuel. SEC basketball transfers, they march on. And the Kentucky fans are saying, finally, you're talking about us here. We've seen the videos on these other teams, and we're just thinking, where are we at? Are we going to get the Rob Wright one, Max, that we expected? Nope, didn't happen. But it's time to zoom on to Lexington because Zoom Diallo is heading to the Cats. And I think this one, Max, again, you kind of looked at how this whole thing was playing out. Obviously, there was some understandable frustration, I think, with the whole right thing and everything, because we talked about earlier this week. I'm like, it seems like that's going to happen, but it didn't. And you were wondering kind of what direction would Kentucky turn next. And, well, they get a very, very versatile and talented point guard from Washington in Zoom.
As the great Michael Scott once said, blessed are those who sit and wait, Blake Lovell.
Wow.
And that's exactly.
Wow. I was not expecting a reference from The Office here, but here we are. So
I wasn't either. Just popped in the head, just zoomed into the head about 5 seconds ago. As a little bit of patience has paid off here as your PG1 Big Blue Nation is in the building. Former McDonald's All-American from Washington. He's a top 50 recruit in 2024. Was a fantastic addition to Washington the past 2 years. And now he comes to Kentucky coming off of one of the best creation seasons I've seen in a little while. One of the best, I wouldn't say just pure passers. I'm saying creation on purpose, Blake. The way that this guy can get downhill and create. I've seen some comparisons already from Big Blue Nation to a little bit of Lamont Butler. Maybe a little bit, but there are separations in their game. Blake, just right off the bat, to grab Zoom Diallo as your point guard one. I love it. I might even like it a little bit more than Rob Wright. I'll get to that later in the video, but I really like this start here for Kentucky's portal haul.
Well, as we always say, it's good at the guard position to have some size in the SEC, and so you're bringing in a 6'4" guy here, 180, 190, somewhere in there. If we go to our guy, Adam Finkelstein, who, again, I think does a great job over at the 24/7 Sports and kind of giving the breakdown. Because remember, these are guys that he has scouted in high school, and he's seeing kind of the evolution of these guys throughout his college career. So I think that's always important, is kind of taking your initial look at a guy coming into college and what he has become since then. And as he talks about, like you are talking about a guy here who, with his size, will be able to defend, I think, in the SEC and be able to guard multiple positions. Just at 6'4", can rebound pretty well for a guard. We'll talk about some of those numbers here in just a minute. But is also kind of bringing up some of the stuff here in terms of the growth that he's made to last year, like what he was able to do to develop his game, averaged 15.7 points, 4.5 assists, 3.9 rebounds. And again, percentages were not bad. You'd like to see the 3-point percentage a little bit better, but we'll talk about that too. And mentions that particularly effective with the ball screens. And it was the SEC. We're going to see a lot of those, right? And so 88th percentile per synergy in that area. So I think that's where, again, you're looking at a guy that's going to be able to certainly be the catalyst here, given the point guard role for Kentucky. But I think there's plenty of versatility with what he can do, not just with the ball in his hand, but also, being able to, I think, contribute in a lot of different areas. And I feel like that's exactly what you're looking for, kind of that Swiss Army knife in the SEC at the point guard position.
Yeah, exactly. I crunched some numbers on the top 50 opponents. Crunched some numbers. And in 13 games versus top 50 opponents, he had an assist rate, Blake. You're gonna be a Big Blue Nation. You're gonna take a gasp when I say this number. In 13 games against top 50 opponents, his assist rate was 40.3%. 40. That's not just in like 5 Big 10 games. You have one game where you end up, the defensive scheme just has the point guard assisting a lot, creating a lot, and you get a skewed number. No, games last year against top 50 opponents. His assist rate was 40.3%. For reference, just to put this into a little bit of perspective, okay? Last year for Kentucky, in 18 games, Aberdeen's was 18%. Chandler's was 13, Always was 16, and in only 4 games, small sample size, Jalen Lowe's was 27. If you want to go back a year, Lamont Butler's in 17 games against top 50 opponents was just under 32. Amari Williams, fantastic passer from the center position, his was only 28. Zoom Diallo, 40. That's how elite of a passer this guy is, of a downhill driver, of a creator. That's why I started out with that. I have on my notes, best creator Mark Pope has had at Kentucky. That's what you're getting here, guys. That assist rate, 13 games against top 50 opponents, being north of 40%. That's Zakai Ziegler numbers in terms of passing. That's Braden Smith numbers, Donovan Dent numbers in terms of creation. That's how elite of a downhill driver Zoom Diallo is.
Well, and who's he creating for? Because as we start to bring up the depth chart here on kind of where things stand for Kentucky, well, this is, as we always say, just really hard to tell you exactly what this is going to look like, because there's a lot of roles to be filled here on this particular roster. We don't have to tell Kentucky fans that. They know it. Again, there is some anxiousness there when it comes to what they're going to be able to do to fill all these spots. But I think, again, if you're looking at just kind of what feels like a starting point here for Kentucky, we know the guys that are coming back, but still a lot to be determined with this roster. And I think that's where at least just having your point guard in place, like that's a nice thing to have. Your point guard, your center, like you've got those two, and now you try to figure out exactly what the rest of it's going to look like for the Cats. And so, for Diallo, I mean, too, he's playing for a Washington team last year. Well, they go 16 and 17 in the Big Ten. He was not their leading scorer. That was your guy. I'm going to let you say it because I always love when you say this name. So I'm just going to give you the floor to do that. Steinbach. Hannes Steinbach. Your favorite name to say here, perhaps on the entire channel. But he was someone, again, who played for a team where having the ball in his hands, being able to shoot, again, 49% from the floor, 83% from the free throw line, only shot 32% from three. But I think Finkelstein even notes, like, unguarded threes, he was 10 of 19, 53%. So a guy that garners a lot of attention. And,
yes,
he's kind of going to be used to that as he steps into this role at Kentucky, because he was kind of, that guy on this Washington team. So if you want some of the things that, again, maybe like, hey, we need him to improve here, if he's really going to be, an all-star type point guard, the turnover numbers, 2.5 turnovers per game, you'd certainly like to see that improve a little bit. I think that's clear kind of area number one as the point guard. Yes, he's going to have the ball in his hands a lot, but you would like to see that turnover number go down. I think that's probably the biggest thing that stands out to me. If you're kind of a Kentucky fan, you're looking for that development phase of his game. Taking care of the ball is always an obvious number one as the point guard, but you would like to see those numbers go down a little bit.
Yep, he's not a perfect prospect. And you mentioned that shooting, and obviously, as Kentucky fans are going to probably have a little bit of worry with, just in terms of past years and spacing. And you would like a point guard that could really knock down some shots. Now, he's capable, like you mentioned. There are some stats and some analytics that show some efficiencies with Diallo out on the perimeter, but it's definitely not his strength. It already helps having two guys on the roster in Cam Williams and Braden Hawthorne. Remember, Braden Hawthorne would be a top 40 recruit if he didn't reclass. This would be I think he was right in, depending on what site you look at, between 30 and 40. So people just have kind of stopped talking about Hawthorne. This is a 6'9" guy that's now been with the program for a season. So you already have Cam Williams, proven shooter in the SEC. Surround him with some more shooters. Surround him with maybe a stretch four that can open up the spacing a little bit. Mo Diabate, we loved him last year, but he's not a spacer at the floor. Brings a different game there. So I like this start, though. I mean, you got a 7-footer who we trust to start in the SEC in Malachi Moreno. That's a rare attribute for a team nowadays. A 7-footer you trust to start. And Zoom Diallo, a 6'4" point guard with positional size that is one of the best creators in all of college basketball. I will take that base for any team.
Yeah, and again, I think it's, it is kind of one of those things where there has been plenty out there in terms of the rumor mill when it comes to Kentucky and transfers, and it's probably not exactly helping. Kind of the sentiment after a disappointing season for Mark Pope and the Wildcats, and so I think this is one where take the positives. Like, this is a guy who is going to come in, I think, and be a pretty big impact player for Kentucky next season. And yes, like, how they develop the roster from here will determine their overall success. But I do think you are getting someone who, like you said, I mean, he's a guy who has all the tools, I think, just from a physical standpoint, again, with that size at that position in the SEC. And, we have seen some areas of his game, as I mentioned, that have really started to take off a bit. And now you want to see, how that blends into that next phase of that in Lexington. So anything else here on Zoom before we hop off?
I do have a few little nuggets here for you guys. One positive here in the transfer portal era, potentially 3 years of eligibility left here for Zoom Diallo. He's got 2 definitely, 3 if the new 5-5, the new thing passes with the NCAA, but at least 2 years of eligibility. You love those multi-year transfers where you can get more than just one, graduate season out of your transfers. So there's a positive. Slight connection to Tyron Stokes here. They both played together in high school at Prolific Prep. That's got to throw a slight little wrinkle. It's not much, but just slight connection there. And then my favorite one here, KenPom player comp. Player comparison here for Zoom Diallo. Scary accurate here. 2015 Nigel Williams Goss, who happened to be a sophomore in his second year at Washington before he transferred to the Zags and took him to the Natty. Zoom Diallo following the Nigel Williams Goss playbook here, Blake Lovell.
You heard it here first. Max Barr just said that the Kentucky Wildcats will play for the national championship next season. Don't take it any other way. That is exactly what he said. But no, in all seriousness, we like this edition, I think, of Zoom in Lexington. And we will, of course, talk more about the Cats roster. There will be more to come. I promise they're not just going to play with 2 guys on the floor. There will be many, many more to come on the Cats roster. They will be able to fill one for next season, and we will talk about it here on the channel. Before we hop off, though, let's tell you about our friends over at ROKFORM, ROKFORM.com, the world's strongest magnetic phone case, extreme protection, super strong magnets, rock lock, secure mounting, SEC 25, 25% off over there. And head to Icon Wallets and use our code over there, SEC16, for 20% off officially licensed collegiate wallets, the premium Napa leather. What more could you want? Zoom on over there now and get your Icon Wallets as well. All right, Kentucky fans, let us know what you think about this edition of Zoom Diallo. To the roster, who do you think's next? How do you kind of look at the way things are going right now for Mark Pope and company in the transfer portal and elsewhere? Let us know your thoughts. As always, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, turn on your notifications. And thanks for watching. We'll talk to you soon. Southeastern 16, presented by FanDuel.